Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. Thanks so much for joining us. In just a few moments, we're going to be joined by a friend of mine and an often guest on this show, the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports. We're going to be taking up the latest public opinion on all that's going on. President Trump in office now just about 3 weeks. And boy, has he got to work. And yes, he got to work, hitting the ground running, doing things that I don't think any of us expected. Border deportations, things that we knew he was going to do, but not to the level of what he's doing it. President Trump, just last night, offering some insight into what's going to happen with Gaza. We've been over in wars in the Middle East for a quarter century, even longer, but quarter century of recent timing, and we've got nothing out of it. President Trump now says he wants America to commandeer Gaza and take over it and build it up and make it a safe haven. Now, I think that is probably one of the smartest things we've seen come out of President Trump's mouth, and it's one of the smartest things we've seen foreign policy-wise in the last quarter century. We've been in these wars, like I said, for years and years, and we've got nothing out of it. We never got any oil out of it. Now we may be getting a piece of land that could be a safe haven for us in the Middle East. Pam Bondi also being elected as Attorney General by a vote of 54-46 late last night. So much to talk about. The Doge Committee, Elon Musk apparently sleeping in the government offices to get some work done. President Trump leaving behind some notes. If Iran is to act up and try to assassinate him and successfully assassinate him, 20,000 government employees were reportedly taking that government package that Donald Trump is offering. Tariffs, China, Mexico, Canada, U.S. aid. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I want to bring in Mark Mitchell now just to get a running start on this because there's so much, and I don't want to leave him in the locker room. Mark, it's great to have you back with us on the Great America Show. I want to first start with Trump taking over Gaza, announcing for the first time in a quarter century, maybe even longer, we're going to get something out of a war in the Middle East.
This is incredible. It just shows you, listen, I would have pulled on this if we could have, but there's no way to predict at all what's going to happen the very next day. I mean, just a couple of days ago, who would have thought? I mean, if I had heard the words USAID, I would have been like, we give a lot of money to people overseas. And now we know that it's funding an AstroTurf anti-Trump bipartisan resistance of the overthrow of the DC establishment. It's incredible. We're learning this day by day. And for the last year, Gaza has been, a mire that nobody's happy with in the Middle East. The public opinion's been kind of mixed on it because it's just a complete clouded mess. And it's been basically like the same thing. It's been status quo there. And then Trump comes in. He's been in office for basically 3 weeks. He does one presser and the entire world's changed. Well, no, it's not like some Middle Eastern war that we should stay clear of. It's not something where there's clear battle lines on which side we should. It's like, no, let's think about this as a transaction that the U.S. is involved in. And what's the best outcome to it, and let's get to a resolution. And that's what he's doing with literally every single thing. It's breathtaking. And I think it's also from a public opinion perspective, it's going to be like, whoo. It's, you know what I mean? We're going into the Super Bowl weekend. If anybody hears about it at all, they're not going to know what it is. They're going to either get it from Axios or Breitbart or whoever and move on with their lives because people are really happy right now. People are really happy with what's going on. And that's not in the mainstream media news headlines at all.
You know what? I don't like America's presence overseas, especially over towards that side of the world. But you know what? If it kills some of our dependency on Israel to be able to be over there and have a safe haven over there, and it keeps Jordan in check, it keeps Lebanon in check, and it keeps some of those surrounding countries in check, you know what? We may finally get peace in the Middle East. We saw it in the first term with the Abraham Accords, which I repeatedly say is the only reason Israel is still a sovereign nation right now. Without them, I don't think Israel is existent to this day with that October 7th attack. But to think, Mark, America will occupy the Gaza Strip. I mean,
yeah, I didn't have that on my bingo
land,
card.
Mark, that's been in dispute for 100 years more. Who owns it? The Palestinians own it. No, the Jews own it. Well, now the Americans own it, Mark.
No, not the Americans. The real estate developer, Donald Trump. Like, that's who owns it. It makes sense when you put it that way. He knows what to do with beachfront property. Put another golf course there. Oh man, this is going to make so many heads explode. I love it.
I mean, did you have this on your bingo card? Like I said, I'm surprised each and every day. I know he campaigned on things, the border. Yeah. But Mark, this one, I did not have this, and I find myself saying this each and every day. I didn't have this on my bingo card.
Yeah, me either. And it's one of those things, again, from a public opinion perspective, we polled on it a couple times. The results have just been kind of like blah. More people support Israel than the Palestinians. It's like Palestinians, it's like 45% to 22%, but 33% are not sure. And it's like we went from a pretty finely tuned laser pointer being used on the American psyche all the way up until the end of October. And now it's like a disco party. Right. Now it's like the spinning mirror ball. And what's happening, I don't know. I think it's so hilarious because everybody's going in different directions. I think part of it is people are happy and are chilled out. And we're going to see new narratives form. We're going to see new organization direction. Like the left is scattered and they're trying to reform themselves. And I just laugh when I go to Reddit and I look at all the violence that people are talking about and how they're going to try and protest tomorrow. And they're trying to recapture that Antifa, that Black Lives Matter mojo they had. And it's like, literally they're trying to talk about how this is a literal coup, when the head of the executive branch closes down a part of the executive branch, right. and they're trying to get it to critical mass, and then like Disney drops a Fantastic Four trailer. It's like good luck, guys. Have a good protest tomorrow. Nobody cares. And I guess we'll see how performative all this is and how many people actually show up at state capitals tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe it will be a lot, but
you know what? Hopefully it's some of those illegals too that ICE is looking for. And I'm assuming this new level of deportations and stuff, they'll be on the lookout. Because, I mean, it saved these guys a lot of time and trouble rounding them up at these protests. The 101 freeway, you got these guys out there protesting, we're not criminals. Well, I mean, by you coming into this country, first of all, he's going after the criminals, so the people who have criminal records here and before they came here. But every single person who came to this country illegally is a criminal. It's just by statute, that's what it is, right? If you get caught stealing something from a store and you get arrested, it's $1. You're still a criminal. It doesn't matter. It was $1. You got caught stealing. You went to jail. It was $1. It's petty larceny, petty theft, whatever. You're still a criminal. It's the same concept. You're no different. But Karen Bass in L.A., I don't think – by the way, I think her time is very short-lived there. I want to go back to USAID harboring some – thousands and thousands of employees. Everyone blaming Elon Musk for closing this down. Elon tweeting out the following, quote, all Doge did was check to see which federal organizations were violating at POTUS's executive orders the most. Turns out USAID so become our focus. I want to go through a little bit of a list, Mark.
Where did you see that quote? Was that a tweet? I got to look at that.
This was a tweet by Elon Musk, February 3rd, 11:08 p.m. We've got the receipts here. So for years, like I said, USAID wasting money. You had pointed out wasting money. Let's go through a list of some of the things that USAID's been spending money, because I think a lot of people don't understand what USAID really is or what they really do. And that should scare you even more because it's just a money funneling.
Well, we know what it is now. We know what it is now.
But the Democrats have so many apparatuses, Mark, to funnel and do deception. They had the DOJ just 4 weeks ago, Mark. They had the DOJ, they had the FBI, they had USAID, they had the Congress. It was a laundry list of the apparatuses.
Don't leave off the Department of Defense.
Right, exactly. So here's some of for the last few years of what USAID's spent their money on. $1.5 million to, quote, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbian businesses. $70,000 for a DEI-themed musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. Almost $50,000 for a trainee opera in Colombia. I'm sure the president of Colombia was just thrilled to be there. I hear he's into that. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for a taxpayer-funded sex change and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. millions of dollars funneled into the EcoHealth Alliance, a group linked to gain-of-function research. Ready for this?
There you go.
In
Ding, ding, ding.
Wuhan, China.
Yeah.
The USAID has also been caught sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to a non-for-profit organization linked to designated terrorist groups, even after the Inspector General's investigation was launched. So this is just a little bit small pennies, $10 million, $5 million of where this money was sent. But I think it gives you an overview of just how deceptive this organization was, Mark.
So I haven't had time to go down the massive rabbit hole, but I know an account that is a mutual follow is Data Republican, who's put together a chart that allows you to explore the relationship between organizations like this and where the money flows to, which is through other organizations similar to like the Rockefeller Foundation, I think was one of them. And then it goes to a whole nother layer of NGOs. And so a lot of people say, oh, look at the NGOs. They're like aiding and abetting the invasion at our southern border. But it's like, no, that's your taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Doing it to ourselves. And one of the big recipients that explained a lot, because listen, we can all conjecture about why is this happening? Like, why is our border being invaded? Why all of a sudden do some of our famous conservative influencers decide to throw reason out the window and become emotional and histrionic about Donald Trump? Well, it's because they're government welfare queens. They literally got funded to be a bipartisan AstroTurf resistance to Donald Trump. Not because he's orange, not because he's Hitler, but because he threatens their gravy train. That's literally what it came down to. In fact, I think the organization that Mr. William Crystal appears to have been, like, this is all speculation, been tied to was founded in 2015. And I don't know when his presidency of that organization that does nothing began, but it sounds like it was Obama holdovers in USAID that were preparing for a Trump term. That's what it sounds like. And so that's really nefarious, especially considering it was done with my hard-earned dollars. It could have gone to feed my kids. And so this is like, again, I think looking back 3 weeks, it's hard to poll on something like this. But I would say, like, just taking a temperature check, people trusted Donald Trump. They're happy he got elected. They think his nominees for cabinet should have been approved. And, this is my conjecture. I think they would have probably just been happy if he had got in and say, secured the border, maybe done some trade deals, maybe got some factories back and improved the economy. He is fundamentally changing in America in a way that I don't think anybody could have possibly predicted. Even this level of control of the amount of work that's gone into what we see here. I mean, it does seem like Elon's just under the hood ripping parts out. Yeah. But there has to be some strategy here. They have to have thought this through, and it looks like we might be in store for just like mind-blowing 4 years. I don't know what America's going to look like, but if they want to change, if they want to stop it, they are. They would have to do some really evasive actions, some crazy stuff, and of course they have.
Yeah.
They have before, but
by the way, I want to give an update here. Elon Musk has changed his bio on Twitter. Are you ready for this? His new bio on Twitter is White House tech support.
Oh man, you know how many heads just exploded looking at that? I love it.
AOC says he's the least intelligible man she's ever met. So that's coming from. I'm going to try to be nice. I won't go down the rabbit hole of things that we can go wrong about AOC, but for her to say that about the world's smartest and richest man, it's sort of laughable just a little bit. You
she's a 2028 Democrat presidential frontrunner at this point. So
please
don't speak too ill of her.
You brought up a funny point, and I had met some people out on the West Coast on my travels over the last 2 weeks, and I met this couple from LA. They were talking about the wildfires, and I had made a joke, if we hadn't sent $1 billion to Ukraine, maybe you guys would have had running water. And they explained to me, it doesn't matter if we sent $1 billion. That wouldn't have changed the thing. And then I said, well, your governor's laughing at your face, and the federal government's laughing at your face, offering you guys $770 and saying, here you go, all the best to you. And they said, well, that wouldn't have made a difference. That wouldn't have stopped the fires. And I think to myself, like, if that's the mindset of these people who have just lost absolutely everything, there is absolutely nothing you can ever do including if Donald Trump cured cancer, or on the other side, if Karen Bass or Gavin Newsom shot your dog, that can make you change your mind from this demented reality that you live in, that orange man is so bad.
With, I guess, neo-Marxism comes nihilism, a hate for things beautiful in life, and a resignation to a worse future. But we're seeing optimism right now. Yeah. We're seeing optimism. One of the most important numbers I think I've seen in a very long time. Don't let me forget to talk about right direction, wrong track. I think there's something newsworthy there. But we asked a question, do you agree or disagree? I want to get the exact wording.
Let's do this, Mark. Let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll have some updated numbers. I also want to go over President Trump's approval ratings and where they sit right now. The way I see it, they're sitting pretty damn good, but I want to get your take on it. I'm not the pollster. I'm just the journalist.
I got a unique view on it. Yep.
We're coming right back with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Report. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sail, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Mark Mitchell, Rasmussen Report's lead pollster, one of the leading pollsters in this country right now, and hopefully for years to come. Mark, the Real Clear Politics average has President Trump at an approval rating of 49.5 right now, which by any measure I think is very favorable compared to how he's been polled in the past over the last 10 years. Give us what you've got right now for President Trump's approval. Right track, wrong direction, right direction, wrong track. And where the American people sit right now on everything he's doing.
Well, before the break, we were talking about optimism. I'll lead into that. Donald Trump has a 52% approval rating right now, according to Rasmussen Reports, with a +7 net approval rating. That's pretty good. Yeah. But what I can tell you is that it's also one of the lowest approval ratings of the beginning of any president's term, which is mind-blowing. He went into 2017 with a higher approval rating, but like millions of less votes. And the reason that happened is because we went from this protracted political kabuki, basically, this red team, blue team stalemate, where at the end of the day, most people didn't really care that much, to an existential election where we're almost at the brink of a civil war. We're never going to see high approval ratings for presidents again, unless we either get into World War III or things change for a decade. And things have not changed for a decade yet. So I think the fact that Trump's above 50 makes him the highest approval political figure of anybody right now, and even higher than things that should have a 90% approval rating like Disney. Donald Trump has a higher approval rating than the Walt Disney Company does right now. So that is great. But in my opinion, if you were going to track it, the most important number this year, this term to pay attention to is right direction, wrong track. Okay. And every night, along with approval, we ask voters in America, is the country headed in the right direction, or has it gotten off on the wrong track? We've been asking that question all the way back to before 2010. And I can tell you this, the highest right direction has ever been is 47%. It happened once for one day, and it happened in January of 2017.
Wow.
It's hit 46% twice. It hit it this week. It's at 46% right now. And it hit it in February of 2020, which is very unique because it was at the end of a presidential term. What tends to happen is this number starts high, and then as people say, oh, Obama, he just sucks, the number drops. And the number, if you averaged it across all of our history, has been about 30%. So the fact is, like February of 2020, people were getting really happy. The job market was improving.
Right.
Everybody was chilling out. They realized, well, like Donald Trump's populism is kind of working. And it was all like subconscious. But then what happened is EcoHealth Alliance and the Wuhan laboratory decided that they didn't want to lose the 2020 election. And here we are. So like right direction, wrong track. Right direction is at 46% right now. Wrong track's only at 50%. That is almost as good as it's been in our polling history. And so that's the number to track. If that number gets higher than 47%, it will be higher than it ever has. And I think what will bring us there is economic recovery and government accountability, because government trust is one of the things that's driving all this. So I'm very, very optimistic about what might happen. And that's what I'm looking at. And it's going to take a while. And it's going to go down because they're probably going to, now this time, instead of Russia asset, they're probably going to try and say that Trump's China asset or something.
Yep.
But what this one, like literally people, like rewind this part and listen to it twice. This is the most important number I think I've seen since the election. During his inauguration speech, President Donald Trump said the golden age of America begins right now. Agree or disagree? So 52% agree it's the same number as Donald Trump's approval. Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Only 41% disagree. But 18 to 39-year-olds, it's 56%.
Wow.
These are people that voted for Hillary Clinton by like 40, 50 points.
Right.
They are the most likely of anybody. More than the 40 to 64-year-olds, more than the 65 and older, to agree that Donald Trump is beginning a golden age. And so that's really important because they're the ones, I mean, their future looks bleak. That debt load looks bleak. There's prospects with Social Security in the job market. So they think Trump is fixing things, and they're also not the ones watching MSNBC.
Yeah.
So this is an entirely new paradigm that means if this trend continues, it's going to change politics.
Right. You know, I think you and I have spoken about this before, but you had mentioned Super Bowl Sunday is coming up in just a few days. It'd be nice to let the audience know that the NFL has announced they will be removing the, quote, end racism slogan from the end zones, as it's announced that President Trump will be attending the Super Bowl. I wonder, you know, I'd love to get some polling on and statistics, Mark, if you can. Poll some racists and see how many of them stopped becoming racist and stopped being racist once they read that slogan on the back of the NFL.
I know, right? It's like, well, if Roger Goodell says it, he must really mean it. I should stop, right? I should jettison my entire upbringing. Like,
mind-blowing to me. The other thing I want to talk about before we go into tariffs is these deportation raids that have been going on. We saw Marco Rubio meeting with the president of El Salvador, who's offering to take our own criminals here in America and house them there for a small fee, a very small fee, which I'm all in favor of. If we can, it's very expensive to house criminals here in the prison. They have all these crazy demands and rights, you know, gluten-free meals and this and that. You saw Sam Bankman-Fried go into jail. By the way, Sam Bankman-Fried's parents are apparently lobbying Donald Trump for a pardon. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Eric Adams is probably more likely.
Stay away from that one. Yeah.
Eric Adams is probably more likely to get one. And if I were President Trump, to give him one, and if I were to give him one, I'd wait till the end of his term just to make sure he continues to abide by, all these good things that are happening in New York, like ICE raids. I won't
touch Sam Bankman-Fried until he reviews the CIA or FBI files that come along with that one. Definitely get yourself informed first before you.
You know what? With how much money that guy's giving the Democrats, I wouldn't even look at him. I wouldn't meet with him. I wouldn't talk to his parents. Let him rot in hell. What he did, how much money he stole from people. Rot in hell, Sam Bankman-Fried. Nobody gives a damn about you or your gluten-free meals, I might say. So those deportations, actually, you know what? Before we get to deportations, I want to talk about the government bailout, the buyouts. 20,000 people reportedly taking those buyouts, Mark. You know, this is something that's a very, very smart. And people think, oh, well, he's getting rid of these seasoned government employees. Well, people don't realize, those people who are saying that, some of these people make $100 an hour. Some of them make $200 an hour, whatever they make an hour. You go and hire 2 or 3 people who make the price of one. you're going to run things more efficiently, and you're going to have longevity over the course of over things. And people are taking these because some don't want to go back to work. Some are old. It's a very lucrative package, better than probably any private sector you're going to get out of the government. Your thoughts, and what are the people saying on this government buyout?
Well, I'll get to the people first before my personal thoughts. I'm coming from corporate America where there's like zero job security. Most employees of the federal government have been working remotely since COVID-19 began. President Trump announced that federal employees will be required to return to their physical offices 5 days a week.
Right.
And America's like, like cry harder, dude. Like do it. Like 45% strongly approve, 67% at least some would approve, only 13% strongly disapprove. So America says, like, sorry, federal government workers, you're expected to be in the office. Get wrecked. And that's like, I think I just have to look. I hadn't seen this. Let's look at the Democrats. Yep, 52%. Majority of Democrats, only 23% of the Democrats strongly disapprove. Now, I'd imagine that the federal government workers in Washington, D.C. are probably about 90 to 95% Democrat. So this is a pretty strong message to them. I know they're crying on Reddit right now. Now, we did poll on the buyout, and 49% approve, and gotta do math, 44% disapprove. So it's a plurality, but some not sure is basically split. Nobody cares. Right. Nobody cares. Right. And so this is one of those things where it's like, hey, we trust Trump. This isn't going to change his approval rating in any way. This is, and from like tactics, I think what this was is like optics, low hanging fruit. Let's give people a chance. And really, it's like maybe people who've done criminal things or are super worried about the implications of what transparency might mean, give them an out. I heard there's going to be a big spike by Friday. Yeah. So maybe we haven't seen the number, but I mean, these people, the ones that have been there a long time, have had zero job insecurity their entire lives.
Nope.
And they put America just 5 years ago through a pretty rough period of job insecurity. Yep. So it's like what goes around comes around. I don't care. You're expected to be efficient and hardworking. And I think most people would say that they probably aren't. And I know there's some Republican conservative government workers. I know there's some working government workers. There's probably like Marxists that are hardworking down there. But it's like, you serve us. Yeah. So sorry.
Yep.
Like this long time coming. I know it sucks that it's you. Maybe you'll get a taste for what everybody else has to go through.
Yeah, the people in the private sector. The government, obviously the largest employer in the United States, maybe in the world. I'm not entirely sure. But President Trump also looking at the Department of Education, possibly abolishing that. I mean, turning it back over to the states would probably be the smartest thing you can possibly do. If you live in a Marxist-run state like New York, you're going to get a Marxist-run education. That's fine. You live in a Marxist-run state like New Jersey, you'll get one there, too, from the public schooling system. If you want your kids to, have good educations, you send them to red states, and that'll cripple these states, I think, who are running their education systems, maybe teach them a lesson. He's also going after the EPA, 1,000 people, 1,000 bureaucrats getting termination notices via email. We've never seen, Mark, the government is like the best place to hide if you have a job. You're tucked away, you never go anywhere. I've never seen, such a cleaning house of the place. Some news that we have to break here for you. The FBI, are you ready for this? Has turned over the names of 5,000 employees who worked on January 6 cases. This comes
there it is.
A suit to block the DOJ from accessing a list of agents. So this is not retribution. This is just truth, justice, and the American way. These are the agents who barraged and broke down people's doors, grandmothers, mothers, elderly people, some who were never even at the Capitol on January 6th, harassed and harangued. I assume some of these are probably some of the same agents who went to school board meetings and terrorized parents for wanting to keep men out of women's sports. Mark, is this finally some accountability that we're seeing out of the federal government?
Yeah, what's mind-blowing is that how far into this show are we, and we haven't even talked about the purge going on at the FBI yet, which is major news. I mean, like, I have some numbers. I did a tweet yesterday. It's some good context because people are going to say, well, no, everybody loves the FBI, back the blue. They're upstanding people, all the stuff that Sean Hannity might say or whatever.
Right.
And it's true. Like some people do trust the FBI. It's about 50% of Americans. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to the context at which this accountability, where is it coming from? What's the mandate? And I'm just going to read some numbers here. As Trump purges the FBI, here's how bad things got according to voters. The FBI is a danger to the freedom and security of law-abiding Americans. Only 26% strongly disagree.
Wow.
72% are concerned that America is a police state. 60% said the FBI is likely helping cover up Biden wrongdoing. The FBI has been politically weaponized starting at the top in D.C. Only 17% strongly disagree. And 53% said the FBI is Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. So you know what blows my mind in this whole thing is that the biggest investigation in FBI history wasn't drug traffickers. It wasn't some money laundering network. It wasn't Chinese espionage. It wasn't the mob. It was January 6th. And so I can understand how some less than intelligent ideologues in the FBI might have thought that they were doing work protecting America by pursuing these people, maybe a few of them.
Yeah.
But when the biggest investigation in FBI history is nonviolent American protests that admittedly in some respects got out of control, but then you literally deny people due process.
Right.
And lock them away and give them, I mean, we literally have stuff in the Constitution about punishments that don't fit the crime. So are they withholding their oath? And I'm sure a lot of them convinced they were because maybe retirement was too sweet or all of their friends thought the same thing or whatever. But you know what? It sucks to not have integrity. And so bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. It's very simple concept, Mark. I don't know. What did these guys think was coming for them? I mean, did they think that President Trump was going to come back into office and let bygones be bygones? I mean, you often hear talk about the raid on Mar-a-Lago, agents going through his wife's underwear drawer.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you just answered your own question, John. Like, what did they think was going to happen when Trump got back in office? They thought their heads were going to roll, and that's why they tried to kill him. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's they were not all of them, right? But it's like, okay, probably thousands.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
bye.
It's that's like so mind blowing to me. Like you tried to kill the man twice. Now I don't know if it was you or your minions, but we still don't know who the hell Matthew Crooks is, the man who took his part of his ear off. We don't know anything about this kid. That's sort of like disappeared. Everyone talks about Governor Ron DeSantis being this outstanding governor. Well, Ron DeSantis was doing his own independent investigation of what happened to the second assassination attempt. We don't know anything about that. So. You raid
Mar-a-Lago with authorization for use of deadly force when there's visitors and children and Trump's family.
Right.
It's like, why would you do that? Why would you make that powder keg? And they don't care.
Right. Because he's a criminal. They were scared, and they authorized the use of deadly force, as you said. You think they were scared, like Trump was going to jump on an ATV and run, or Trump was going to jump in a helicopter and run away, or Trump was going to go get guns? And by the way, I've never even seen President Trump shoot a gun. Obviously, his sons, yes. I've never even seen Trump holding a gun on a range anywhere, with the exception of in a gun store. Yet this man is going to be using deadly force. Not to mention he's surrounded by Secret Service. Like, how did these people believe? How did Joe Biden? How did the DOJ think that Americans were going to perceive when they read? Because you knew it was going to get unsealed. A search warrant that said you approved the use of deadly force against a former president and current front runner for the 2024 nomination and presidency.
They were fishing for optics, and optics are important because January 6th had some bad optics, and that had an impact. Did it have the desired effect that they wanted? No, but they got some runway out of it. It was effective. And so if you look at the Mar-a-Lago raid, if you look at, I think the Trump cases were all just, rolling the dice, getting something negative to run with. And I think they're still going to do it now. There's going to be some major protest. There's going to get pallets of bricks dropped off. They're going to try and do stuff. And it's like just to get that one clip that runs on network news, except nobody watches network news anymore. And if you go on Twitter, they get blasted in the face. So I don't know. They're still wrestling with that, but they lost more than the election here. They definitely did. And ultimately what it comes back, I work for companies, you work for companies too. Yeah. Why do you work for companies? Well, to make the company more money. Well, why do you work for the federal government?
Yeah,
like what's your work output? How do you hold yourself accountable? It's literally like, they become literally narcissistic, power hungry, like unelected leaders. Like that's what they think that they're better than America. And so when they go down to Mar-a-Lago, they say, oh, Trump's a criminal and we're protecting America by doing this. And it's the same thing that like Mike Ben's talking about the CIA and how they view all of the nefarious things that they ostensibly do overseas as protecting democracy. Well, you just started a proxy war with Russia. How's that for protecting democracy? It probably made it a lot worse. And I don't think there's a lot of introspection.
When you mentioned why do people work for the government? And I had mentioned job security, and then you went into narcissistic. The only thing I could think of was people who work at the DMV. Those are the angriest people, Mark, in the world. They are so tyrants. They're extreme tyrants. If you don't have what they want, they send you to the back of the line. No soup for you. It's the craziest place in the world. If you're not there exactly at 3:59 on the dot, the door is closed. If you want to buy a pen, you got to put 25 cents into the machine. I go into that place every single time, and I'm like, how the hell do these people have jobs? And why are these people so angry? They're probably making like 80, 90, 100 grand a year. They're getting a pension. They sit on their asses all day behind a desk. They don't have to do anything. And they're literally like, control your fate and your destiny. Why are you so angry?
Yeah, we just owe it to them. Like maybe that's what happens when somebody pays your salary. You're paying my salary. Like I'm better than you.
I think I'm gonna go get a job,
man.
I'm gonna go get myself a job at the DMV, and I'm gonna revoke people's licenses because it's
my local one's really good. I don't know. I think they might have privatized it or something. I don't know. You get your appointment, you go in. The people are real nice.
I actually got to say, mine's gotten a lot better as well. You get the appointment, you go in, like you just said. But back in the day, man, when I got my license like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it was like, an insane asylum of just angry people who were elected class hall monitors whose terms were ended short.
Hall monitors.
Now they're at the DMV getting retribution on these poor elderly people who are paying traffic tickets and getting registered in their vehicles or you take a picture, you're not allowed to look at the picture, one time. If it's ugly, too bad, and you're stuck with it for the next 10 years. Or like, what the hell happened so wrong in your life that you're so angry at me? It's like this. It's same thing with like TSA. You go through and these people are like such a power trip. I'm like, dude, it's a bottle of water. I'm not trying to blow up a plane. I love this country. I love everything about it. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I promise you. Man, it's unbelievable. I want to take one more quick break here, Mark. When we come back, I want to take up Pam Bondi being confirmed 54 to 46. President Trump's letter that he's apparently leaving behind to his commanders if Iran assassinates him successfully. Now, for President Trump to leave behind a letter like this, he must believe there's some sort of credible threat to level that damn place to the ground. I also want to take up China tariffs, Canada and Mexico tariffs, and as we spoke about a little bit before, El Salvador housing our criminals. Pretty unbelievable. We'll come right back with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Stay with us, folks.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back with the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports. Mr. Rasmussen himself, although his name's not Rasmussen, he represents the company.
I identify as one.
You can do that these days. It's nice, right? Yeah. I identify as a genius because nobody's ever called me one before. Mark, I want to turn to the mainstream media, Twitter, Reddit, where we often get our news these days. I was on a plane the other day flying up from Atlanta, Georgia, back home here to New York when that plane crashed in Washington, D.C. And I'm watching. If I want to get news, I turn to CNN. If I want nonsense, I'll watch Fox News. So I turn on Fox News. Obviously, I don't get the story. I have to admit, CNN does a far better job than Fox and anybody else when it comes to breaking news and news on the ground. Now, everything else is total trash, but they do have good reporters and they do get to the news. So
they got Scott
CNN.
Jennings.
Right, then they've got Scott Jennings. And they're saying a small plane crashed, okay? So a small plane, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm looking at this video, and I'm like, that ain't a small plane. I'm a pilot, and that if a plane blows up, my little Cessna ain't blowing up like that. I tell you that. So what do? I got to go to Twitter, Mark. Lo and behold, I put this whole situation together. I find out where the plane was coming from, what kind of plane it was, how many people were on board. The primary people on board were ice skaters. I put all that together. It crashed into a Black Hawk helicopter. I put all that together within the matter of 5 minutes when the news, Fox News, is multi-billion-dollar corporation, couldn't piece this together and put it together. The mainstream media, as you mentioned in one of our segments here, is dying. There's no doubt about it. We are the journalists, as Elon Musk put it. What's your thoughts on this transformation we've taken now, into this whole citizen journalism approach?
Wow. I mean, it's a new paradigm. We all saw it. Twitter helped Trump. If you rewind, oh man, I don't want to go back too far. I don't think we would see what we're seeing now if Trump had won in 2020.
Yes, agree.
Okay. So I think in between 2020, we saw a lot of things that changed a lot of stuff in America, not least of which was the authoritarian COVID measures, the mass censorship. I think those were all really important. But what was kind of interesting is that, as Breitbart would say, politics is downstream from culture. And the bulk of the culture war was won in 22 and 23 and 24 by people on mostly YouTube, probably ripping on bad movies or throwing comic book writers under the bus, or just saying we're not going to take it anymore. And I think that was very important. I think all the censorship culminated in, I hate to use the word hive mind, but the right did come together. They boycotted Bud Light. They did a lot of very important things. Yeah. And Elon Musk bought Twitter. Now, that was important. I think that played into the election winning too. But I think it was finally giving us the second part of a two-part system that is Twitter. So Twitter is a technology, and Twitter is a way people use a technology. And we had the technology, it's out there, but nobody could do what they needed to do on it because it was so oppressively censored.
Right.
It was just not. And now what it is it is literally, I saw this video of the ants. It was a scientific study. It was 1,000 ants, and they were trying to pick up this weird shape object and move it through a hole, and they had to turn it around, and they were all able to see all these synapses, these little prehistoric synapses firing at once. And they can solve that puzzle faster than a human being can. And so that is what journalism now, every single person on Twitter is a journalist. You are part of the conversation now. Yep. And all of this information is bouncing back and forth very rapidly. And the story that people would paint is one of misinformation. Oh, look at how much misinformation is on Twitter. But if you were to watch the master, Plato, in a dialogue, a lot of misinformation gets said. But it's objectively evaluated and corrected, and they move the conversation forward. So they were talking about how that pilot was the trans individual, and that flew around Twitter for 10 or 12 hours. But guess
By
what?
the way, that's going to cost someone a lot of money.
Yeah. But it was corrected and retracted, and apologies were made, and more information was found, and it was like literally part of a dialogue that people were partaking in, and that's how I think news. It's literally you go to the following feed and click refresh, and you see what people are talking about right now, can engage in it, learn from it. And that's refreshing because it's like you are not turning over the keys to your brain to another human for the first time. That is what's new. And Fox, even if they're trying, they're never going to be able to give you the entire context. And that's important for something like the USAID. Well, like they do give food to sub-Saharan Africa. They do send vaccines overseas.
Right.
And yet they are also a horribly rotten mechanism that's used for authoritarian purposes.
Well, it's just like the Red
Fox
Cross.
isn't going to tell you that. They're not going to give all of them, right? It's probably true of every single federal agency. I think that we're probably going to find a number in the 200 or 300 billions in the DoD of stuff that's was nobody would agree with, right? And so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. They're auditing the IRS first. Yeah. But you're not getting that context, and it's all humans all around us. And what's wild is what it's done to the left, because they've said, you know what? I can't be part of this active conversation.
Right.
It's too much for me. Like I'm allergic to a discussion in which if I say something stupid, people devalue my input. They didn't want it. They're afraid of it. I don't know. Maybe they don't like this concept where everybody's not in a constant kumbaya.
Yeah.
And so that they go to Blue Sky and it's constant kumbaya. They go to Reddit and it's constant, like hall monitor, acne fest, like whatever you want to call it, trying to gin up a resistance right now. But they're not really evaluating objective information and arriving to conclusions. No. So this is like what humanity's been missing. This is like Aristotle 2.0 or Socrates or whoever, right? I'm not a classical PhD.
Thank God. You're probably a lot smarter because of that. You know what the thing is they literally can't handle the truth about anything, and they'll use any sort of tragedy or anything to justify their Marxist views. My best friend, he's got a full family of Marxists. I've brought him over to the right side, and he's now a big Trump guy. But he's not just a Trump guy; he's a common sense guy, and he does his own diligence, right? And that's all I've asked him to do from the beginning. He's my best friend since high school. Family, big Biden, Obama supporters, right? And that by default, that's what you are. I grew up a Republican because my parents were Republicans. My father, was a big Republican. So I see, what? And I've tried to look at things objectively, and I decided that this is what I believe. So, throughout the course of our 20-year plus friendship, I tried to bring him over to the right side. And, over the last 5 years, he finally got to understand and see what they've done to President Trump and what they've done to this country. And he does his own diligence. So he constantly, we go back and forth and send each other crazy Instagram DMs that we get. And he sent me one recently from one of his family members. And she says this, quote, she sends, first of all, a bunch of memes calling Trump a loser. He is and always will be a loser. He's a stable genius in a mind of his own. Chaotic energy. And this is about 6 or 7 messages in a row. Since he got in the office, you ready for this one? This is perhaps the best. Since he got in office, the universe is telling us something. 20 years of no plane crashes. Now we've got 2 in 1 month. Maybe he should reconsider profiting off the commissions of the $60 made in China Bibles he's selling. He criticizes them until he needs them. He's a two-faced hypocrite. Did you get some of those $400 tacky Trump sneakers? And then sends a picture of Trump behind bars. I mean, these people are mental, Mark. There's no, and this is the problem. I have jokingly make fun of these people, but it's really, truly bad and sad that you can't reason with these people. I'd mentioned to you in a commercial break about a comment someone intimated me while I was over in Colorado skiing about my Trump hat. Someone else had mentioned to me he's a dictator. And when you ask them what makes him a dictator, They move on to the next. They move on to the next adjective. Well, he's a racist. No. But I asked you, what made him a dictator? He's a misogynist. Yeah, but no. Now I want to know what makes him a racist and a dictator.
I know.
Now he's a misogynist.
We've all had that conversation.
No, but it's literally Mark. You're literally talking circles, and I don't mind wasting the time because this is what I do for a living, right? I get paid to argue with people and to argue, so I don't mind it. I don't mind the debate, but. You can sit there for 2 hours with these people, Mark, and at the end of the 2 hours, you'll be no further closer to bringing these people to any sense of reality.
Yeah, listen, Jesus Christ gave us a soul, and if we can't have internal logical consistency, are we any better than an animal? Right. Just responding to impulses seriously, what kind of human being do you want to be? I think about those messages you got sent, and it blows my mind because I post a lot of jokes and memes and I make caustic commentary, but it's okay, I'm either making an observation and I try to make the observation fair, but also funny, or I'm trolling somebody, or I'm ridiculing somebody that said something stupid in a way to their face. Hey, you're being kind of back off. Evaluate the way in which I'm proving you wrong in a hilarious manner. But what you're looking at, that's that's like an emotional temper tantrum. That's lashing out in uncontrollable rage like a 2-year-old that had a toy taken away from them. Yeah. Who are these human beings? What developmental phase did they not go through? And they're having, we talked about Reddit. That's where the temper tantrum is happening right now. And listen, Reddit's a mess. It has a lot of systems that could be used against us. Anonymous moderators with sheer power that they can use to craft narratives. Probably every intel agency in the entire world, but also some real humans. And man, they are getting violent. Just in the last day or two, it's extreme stuff, doxing people, death threats, coming after Doge. And it's new. They're really testing the limits. Some major subreddits had to get shut down. I think in Reddit's the 5th, people might not know what it is. It's the 5th largest website in the US. And I honestly think it's one of the reasons that Trump won in 2016, because there was a very pro-Trump subreddit that got shut down and censored. But the way it is now, it looks like it is the mental, emotional, ideological core of the new left resistance. Because people on Blue Sky are just sharing nature photos. So, and I guess there's probably some people on TikTok too, but I'll tell you, Reddit is really mad in a way where they might be testing Section 230 protections. I really do think that Reddit might have some problems because none of this stuff is getting really shut down, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it's they're trying to be edgelords. It's mostly probably 30, 40-year-old white, liberal, affluent women who are begging some stupid man to go out and do violence for them, right? That's what's probably happening. Or it's Fed boys, or it's the Fed boys. They put their khakis on by day and then go home and type on Reddit by night. Or maybe there is Fed News is a subreddit to follow. It's ostensibly federal workers who have been such upstanding career public servants for their entire lives, and they just can't stomach this new shift, this new fascism, this new coup that's taking over their government. They're other ones. What goes through their mind? What brainwashes them? Nobody makes that much money in the government. I mean, the highest paid government employee is supposed to be the president of the United States at just under $400,000 a year. You can make much more money than that in the private sector. Most government employees, I'd say, probably topped out at the end of their career, make somewhere in the 150 to 250 range. I'm not selling my soul for $250,000 a year, Mark, and a pension. It's going to take a lot more than that, maybe $2.5 million a year in a pension, something like that. What is takes possession of these people that they're so sold on a 6-figure pension? Now, I know it's nice and all, and I'm not undercounting that. I'd love to get a pension. I'm jealous of everybody who has one because it's a great thing to have. But what possesses you to become such a demonic figure that you're willing to sell yourself for any amount of money? By that matter, I joke that I'd be sold for $2.5 million, but I wouldn't be. Your soul and your conscience are two things that you can't get back, Mark, and they're two things that'll eat you alive. I really don't know how to answer this one. I wish I knew more. And maybe I'll find the right friend that lives down in DC who will open up and tell me. But a lot of the people I talked to Raheem about it, and he doesn't know the entire extent. I mean, he'll tell you that the city is corrupt and and here's the list of its problems. But like the question is why and how, and it's such a deep thing. But it needs to be fixed. I made a tweet that's like, I guess we're going to test my long-running theory that DC is occupied territory, because I do think there's going to be people that overtly resist. I think a lot of them, it's like, okay, you don't earn a lot of money, but you do important work. So you convince yourself that your work is super important, and then somebody comes in and kicks your sandcastle down. I'm sure that is kind of tough. I think part of it is never having to really it's like, okay, you're a public servant, but does it feel like that in DC? Are you really putting somebody else's needs? Because when you're in the private sector, you have a customer and shareholders, and those are real palpable things. And I mean, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for saying stuff like this, but I'm sure some of them are selling stuff to China. I'm sure it's happening. Yeah. Maybe 5, maybe 50,000. I don't know. I'm sure some of them probably, a lot of them don't work in the office. I don't know how many. Maybe they run Uber routes. I have no idea. Maybe they have an entire private sector life, a private sector job they do while they're on the governmental. I don't know. Or maybe they're getting some of that USAID money. Like maybe they say, hey, welcome to DC. This is how it works here. This is your secret paycheck. Right. Gotta hate Trump. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm going to talk about this on my show and ask people in the chat. Like, it's a really important question, but there's something about the Potomac that just corrupts the hell out of people. Yeah, it definitely corrupt, and I don't know how you really get it out of there. It's something that perplexes me. I think it's something that perplexed the great Lou Dobbs and why he never wanted to go down to the swamp. He hated DC, hated going down there, and I think it was part of the reason where he wouldn't have taken a job in this administration. He could have worked for President Trump in the first administration. Could have worked for him this time around had he still been alive. But I don't think he would have ever taken a job because he hated going down to that place. There's something about it that's truly demonic. The people, not all of the people, but most of the people inside and outside the Beltway, just bad people. And who they work for, I don't know. Who their higher power is, I don't know. Is it Jesus Christ? Doesn't seem so by the way that they act. That's just the truth of the matter. I want to turn to Pam Bondi as we go into that and some tariff news. Pam Bondi finally accepted to be our next attorney general by a vote of 54 to 46. Do you have faith and confidence in her that she's going to do a good job to carry out the America First agenda and this massive role she's taken on, doing everything that President Trump wants done? I can tell you that people generally wanted Trump's cabinet appointees through. Number for her is probably 52 or 53. I can't remember. But I can also tell you that people aren't happy with the state of the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of politicization. And this is before Trump was prosecuted, like across the country. I know it's like SDNY is not the DOJ, but it was a somewhat coordinated affair. 57% agreed with that statement, 41% strongly, only 24% strongly disagreed. So that it's like it needs to be fixed. So this is the mandate. It's like you could say Trump has a 52% approval rating, right? But almost 60% of people, even before this stuff happened, and we had a number, I think it was 64%, that said the DOJ has been politically weaponized. It is persecuting political opponents. So, I mean, it's like there's the mandate. And if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said about Pam Bondi, I'm like, oh, I'm sure that Trump's people are going to get in there and have their marching orders and do some stuff. I think we're going to see shock and awe now. I think we're going to see massive announcements about sweeping investigations that are going to be things that we never dreamed of. Because I like the amount of like RICO cases off the top of my head that I could list that I want to see. It's like, who enabled the southern border? Right. Where does Act Blue get its money? Like, what? Like, these are all things that we need the answers to. 2020 election. There's at least 5 cases there. And hold on 1 second. You mentioned RICO, and the only thing that comes to mind, Mark,
The only two people that I can think of who were charged with RICO was two elderly men, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, it's like we just
go ahead. Sorry.
We're going to see thousands of FBI heads roll as. Let's not use the retribution word. Let's use the accountability word. The accountability for January 6th. I guess meat's back on the menu. I think that's where it's going. And I'm here for it because there's a lot of criminals down in DC and they should be scared.
Yeah, you mentioned no retribution. We can make a nice acronym: retribution, accountability, and maybe truth. The acronym will be RAT.
There you go. Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, because it's people think of retribution as a bad word. It's not a bad word. What, like we had said 2 segments ago, what did you expect was going to happen? Did you think Donald Trump was going to roll over on his back and take it? No. Even if he lost, which there was no way, in my humble opinion, that he could have possibly lost his last election. According to your polling, probably agree with me on that.
Well, it came close, but
there was no way he was going to take this. Even as a private citizen, he would have fought tooth and nail. He would have probably been fighting by himself, but that's what he's done from the beginning anyway. Let's turn to real quickly here. President Trump and Iran sending billions of dollars. Obama did to Iran, nuclear program that they have. They could probably launch a nuclear weapon at any time they want, probably to our great demise. But President Trump leaving a letter behind to his commanders in chief saying, if they assassinate me, if they somehow figure out a way to take me out, I want you to level the damn place. What's your thoughts?
Probably made Obama mad. I don't know. We have not polled on Iran in a long time. I can tell you that, the last time we asked who's America's biggest enemy as we approach the end of 2024, the number one enemy was Democrat Party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Then it was China. Then it was Republicans because of Democrats who answered the question. Then it was Russia. So Russia's not even at the top. And Iran was like, if they were even in the question this time, they were like a distant number 5 or 6 at like 4 or 5%. So maybe that's just because they're not like, they haven't been blamed something recently, and people, here's what it is. It's like the nebulous threat of future nuclear implications is not worse than the current situation in America. And that's why Iran has fallen off the list of problems. And so great if they do. I don't know. I don't know if they have an ability to retaliate against us at all. We probably shouldn't have a nuclear Iran, but it is not on anybody's radar right now. And, we got bigger problems.
Yeah. Bigger problems is true. Southern border, one of them, El Salvadorian president, meeting with Marco Rubio, saying he's willing to take back this is another one. I keep saying the bingo card. I didn't have this on my bingo card. Never did I hear a president of a country offer to take criminals that don't belong to his country, that committed no crimes in his country, and store them for a small fee. I mean, is this just the power of Trump?
Yeah, he's turned everybody into a deal maker. That's what it is. The art of the deal, baby. Good for him. Take something you're good at and, monetize it. I think what we should be monetizing is DEI consultants. It could be our greatest export this year.
Yeah.
And people could put tariffs on those or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I think that'd be hilarious. I think it's great. I mean, I think we have a problem with our prison systems. I hope that prison systems will be a growth opportunity in the United States, because we got a ton of violent criminals here. We have a ton of white collar political criminals. Right. And maybe, Trump could cut a deal with him and say, listen, we can't take U.S. citizens and imprison them on foreign soil. What we could do is annex the ground under the prison for a forward base and have make some deal, have some good relationship with that country, and ship people off to a prison that's a lot better than the one that they would go to here. A lot better than the one Menendez is going to. I mean, better, meaning way, way worse, right?
He can't get there soon enough. I want to wrap up with you. Of course, we're talking about the art of the deal, the art of the seal, and the art of the steal. President Trump working tariffs. China is the only country who's not willing to play ball because, they don't want to stop selling fentanyl in this country. Why the hell would they want to do that? But Canada and Mexico, Sheinbaum and Trudeau, both laying down and taking it from President Trump. What's your thoughts on how we move forward now post post tariffs?
This is an interesting one. I think my biggest take on this, watching what's going on, and again, like the ability to predict and poll on this one is really hard. I just searched tariffs and we didn't have anything since like 2019. You favor or oppose the use of U.S. tariffs on Mexico goods to force Mexico to strengthen its efforts to stop illegal immigration and illegal drugs from entering the country. So pretty salient. 46% favored, 40% opposed. But what's wild to me is the biggest thing I saw is MSNBC trying to say that Trump's plan to tariff these people met a humiliating end because he capitulated and postponed the tariffs. And they either don't understand the art of the deal or, literally doing mental gymnastics to spin this as a Trump loss. We all know what was happening. When I saw that tweet, Trump's meeting with Trudeau later today, I said, there you go. Time until Canada caves as well, 4 hours. Yeah. And sure enough, he got off the phone with him and Trudeau with his tail between his legs. So this is like the current state of our relationship with Mexico and Canada is exactly what it should be. We have an alignment of interests. We made a deal. We're working together. There's communication. We respect each other's borders. And there's an opportunity for future, relationships with them, like over trade or whatever. They know who's boss now, and it's us. And that's not going to be on the headlines in MSNBC.
What's the saying? Who's your daddy?
Yeah,
it's certainly Donald J. Trump. Mark, we could talk for hours and hours on end, and there's always so much that we can talk about. We're a little bit over on time, but that's fine. I'm sure people won't be too upset. You get the concluding thoughts here. The floor is yours on anything you want to talk about. Your concluding thoughts.
It's here. It's everything. It's literally here in a way that people talked about conservatism 10 years ago. This is different. This is literally brutal overhaul of the federal government, ripping pieces out, root and stem on the fly.
Yeah.
Every day it's a new one. Every day. And so in many ways, this presents an existential crisis for a very dangerous and cornered animal right now. And I don't know even who that is other than the creature on the Potomac, this kleptocracy, this loosely united group of aligned interests whose goal is to enrich themselves at the expense of the taxpayer. The taxpayer is getting retribution right now, brutal retribution, and I don't know where it's going to go. The entire Overton window is broken right now. The polling is just like, hey, the country has become a populist country. About 55 to 60% of them on almost every topic. Maybe they don't like Trump that much, but if I were you guys, I would not look at any mainstream media headlines. Nobody is anymore. They're just lying to you. It's a pathetic last minute, they're going to drag it out as long as possible until every single one of them gets fired off the air. The conversation is on Twitter, and this is a brave new world for public opinion. Because I could look at things in the past and say, man, voters are stupid. You dangle a shiny object in front of them, they go for it. That we're not there anymore. It's totally different. So I look forward to it, and we're going to cover it. And we've got some good polling coming up too. We even polled on the NFL, and a pretty large number of people think that referees are actually fixing the outcome of games. Interesting. So that'll be Friday, and people could come check out. We're on now episode 3 of our new live show that we're doing 3 days a week so far. Reality Check, Rasmussen Reports Reality Check. So I hope to see everybody there tomorrow at 2 if you're not doing anything else, unless that's when you're airing your show, and then maybe we need to deconflict.
It's all right, man.
But I want to have you on too at some point too.
I don't mind it. You can step all over us. It's you're a good guy, and you mean well, and you're doing a good job. We're all in this fight together, you know.
Do you drop your episodes at 2?
1. So you'll follow up.
Okay. Oh, we're good. We're good.
You can catch me, and then you can catch Mark. Actually, the audio version's out early in the morning, and we go live on video in the afternoon. So we have a very big audience who join us on audio, and then we get an audience on video. So, folks, we'll go to
2:30.
Real quickly, you had mentioned the enemy inside the Potomac, and who this enemy is very simple to me. The enemy is anyone who stands in the way. That's who the enemy is. So it'll be very easy to distinguish who's the enemy and who's the ally. And the enemies, I think, are going to be handled appropriately in this administration. Folks, we entice you all to join Mark as he embarks on this new podcasting journey. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. But join Mark each and every day that he's on. What days are you going to be doing your show, Mark?
Right now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 4.
There you go, folks.
Be there or be square.
And you can catch him on Rumble or Twitter, YouTube, wherever you guys watch your episodes. Same place you catch us. You can go ahead and check out Rasmussen Reports or Mark Mitchell on Twitter and get all the good stuff there. Mark Mitchell, it's always great talking with you. Come back soon.
Always a good time. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you back here tomorrow.